Hello, hello. Happy Saturday. Good morning. For some of you guys, it's not morning, it's probably the afternoon. If you're logging in, please say hello. I'm going live on Zoom again, so I'm trying to figure out the technical stuff. So please bear with me as I do this. I'm gonna pull up the comments on my phone so I can see you guys. So if you're joining in, please say hello. I want to know you're here. Can you hear me? That's another thing. I'm actually in another room because my husband is going to be joining me here in a little bit. So we need a little more space than where I was before. So say hello. I want to say hello to you too. And what are you doing this Saturday morning or Saturday afternoon? What are you guys up to this weekend? Where I am, it is like crazy, crazy windy. And my best friend came to visit me from Colorado to California, and we had all these, I had all these visions and expectations of what we're gonna do, and it's so windy and it's supposed to rain, and I just have to, be present to that and accept that that is what's so. It's not any other way, right? And just kind of create. And coming from my big why, right? We can bring in the big why into any situation when we are feeling, disappointed or upset about something that is not going the way we expect it to. We can bring our big why into anything. So, with my best friend, my intention and what I truly want is just to have fun, to feel good, for us to connect. And that is going to be the intention for the whole weekend. So, and I'm sharing that with you just to kind of share, like, when something happens, in your relationship that's not exactly what you imagine it to be, how do you integrate, that intention into it? Okay. So I want to see who's here. I'm seeing more and more of you log on. So just, give me a little heart, give me a hi or whatever. If you're watching the replay, just hashtag replay. So I know you also watched. Thank you for coming on to this bonus session. I know that, Saturdays for a lot of us are family days, and I really appreciate you guys that you're still here and, coming to learn more, and that you're taking this on. And I have a lot of, well, actually not just my husband, Rick, and I, we have a ton of stuff that we're going to share with you today. All of these tools that we use in our marriage, we're going to talk to you about. But before I bring him on, and he's actually around, before I bring him on, I'm going to bring on one of my participants that participated in the program, in the Transform Your Marriage program, Karen. At this point, some of you might have questions about the program, or if some of you, hey Mac, are thinking about the program, but aren't sure whether this program is for you. I invited Karen to kind of talk to you about it and what she was going through before she joined the program, and what her story is and her experience. Yesterday we had Mindy, and she shared a bit with you about her experience. So Karen, she has 2 kids, so I think some of you will also relate to her. And she's amazing. She went through a complete transformation in the program. Her and her husband did it. But actually, I'm going to just bring her on and have her tell you a bit about it. And if you guys are thinking about joining in, and if you have any questions, I encourage you to post them in the comments, and maybe she can answer them for you from her perspective, or I can answer them for you as well. Okay, so just ask away, and I'm going to bring her on. Are you there, Karen?
Yes.
Hi, Karen. Thank you so much for being here with me.
Yes, of course. No problem.
Yeah. Can you guys all see us? Can somebody let me know that you can see us. Ashley, I see you're here. Just let us know that you can see us, that you can see Karen and I. Actually, I see it now. We're on. So thank you so much for being here. I know like sometimes it's a little nerve-wracking to go live, but we're just here talking. I just want to, share with the women. So we've been going through a challenge this week, and everybody has been, participating, and I've been sharing with them a lot about a lot of the concepts that we learned in the Transform Your Marriage program. Talked about the big why and shifting your context and just a lot of really great stuff. And the women have been already seeing shifts. And some of them, have been inquiring about the program, and some of them are interested in learning more. So I thought it would be just awesome to bring you on since you've gone through it and just share with them from your perspective and, what you got out of it. And that's, and that's pretty much what I'd love for you to share. And then if anybody has questions, then maybe you can answer some of the questions.
Sure.
Yeah, just tell us, first I think, tell us about yourself, like where you are, what you do, how many kids you have.
Okay, so I have been married for 5 years, but I've been with my husband for 13 years. So we met in high school, but didn't date till college. So we've been together a really long time. We have 2 kids, a 2-year-old son and a 4-year-old daughter. So a lot of my time is with them. But I'm also a nurse, although I'm not really working too much right now. I'm kind of leaning towards, we're shifting to me becoming a stay-at-home mom right now, which is nice. So, but I'm still kind of working, but mostly home. Yeah, I don't know. That's me.
Well, tell us a little bit about like where you were before you joined the Transform Your Marriage program, and what were your biggest things that you were dealing with, inside your marriage.
So, like I said, I was with my husband for a really long time. We were together 8 years before we got married. And I think one of the issues was that we were together for so long, just us two, that once we got married, I actually was pregnant while we were planning the wedding. Like after we got engaged, I got pregnant the next year. So I think we went from being like a couple, and the beginning of our marriage was already as a family, as a unit. So I think I love my kids very, very much, but I think we didn't have that time to be a married couple first.
Yeah.
So I think that's where one of our struggles was that we weren't able to balance like the quality time, the just us two without the kids.
Yeah.
So I think that was one of the struggles we had, was that all our focus was not on each other anymore, which is necessarily bad. It's just we had to learn the balance of, like not ignoring him, because that's one of the issues that came up during the program, was that I was always like, oh, I need to do this for the kids, the kids' birthday parties, the kids' school, the kids' like dentist appointments. But I wasn't like, oh, like you and me anymore.
Yeah.
So that was one of our struggles, was being able to find time for each other. But also, I think one of the big things with a lot of couples is the communication.
Yeah.
Whenever we did have an argument, it was more me. I had a really hard time talking. I don't even know why. Like I would have all these stuff in my head that I want to say, but nothing would come out of my mouth when he was talking to me.
Yeah.
And that was an issue I had even before we were married. And it would just build up. And then once I reached a point, I would let everything out, which would obviously wouldn't come out in the right ways. So it would lead to arguments. But that's one of the things that I learned with the program, even though it seems so simple and so basic, was that we need to approach those issues with the right setting, with the right tone of voice, instead of me saying like, you did this and it made me mad. Like, why did you do this? Or why couldn't you do that? It's more about what we do now, even we still do it now. We might, like step aside and be like, hey, can I talk to you later about something?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like, we're not attacking each other, but we're letting each other know like, oh, something happened.
Mm-hmm.
Please talk about it. So that's one of the things I think that helped.
Yeah.
Sounds so simple, like,
Yeah.
oh, why that? But that's one of the things that has been doing really well for us.
Mm-hmm.
Another one of the struggles was learning the way each other needs, I don't know how to say this, how I guess each of us needs to unwind on our own.
Mm-hmm.
One of the other struggles was, again, like I'm usually home with the kids, and my husband works graveyard shifts. I know you know this, Yana, but he
No,
works graveyard.
no, share it with the women. This is for them.
Yeah.
Like I just wanted, yeah.
So yeah, he works 5 days a week, graveyard shifts, which we have a 2 and a 4-year-old. So that's hard. Once he gets home, they wake up. And his job is for the city. So it also surprisingly they can hold him over. Like just this week, he was held over twice. Mm-hmm. So he worked 10:30 p.m. to 2:30 p.m. Wow. Twice. So that's already hard. So what was my mistake before was when he would come home right away, I'd be like, oh, like we got to get my daughter ready for school. Go cook her breakfast. I'm going to get her clothes. Like you need to help. You're home. But what I learned was, you need to step away from that for a second. Like he just came home, like give him some time to kind of settle back in, mm-hmm. which has helped too, because I noticed he's been helping a lot too more. Mm-hmm. That's one of the things I thought I was doing everything by myself. Mm-hmm. But I wasn't. Like I knew that then, but I just see it more clearly now.
Yeah.
What else? There's so many things that have been happening.
Oh, that's so awesome.
Like,
I love it.
Yeah, like even I like to be outside. Like with COVID, it's been hard, but before COVID, like I like to just not be home. And one of the things that I remember you telling me was the whole idea that men go to work and they're stressed at work. They have all this on their plate. When they come home, it's their little cave. They mm-hmm. feel like this is their place to unwind and do what they want to not stress out. Mm-hmm. But for women, we're always in the home. We're cleaning, we're cooking, we're taking care of the kids, we're taking care of ourselves. Even if the house is clean, it's not really clean yet. There's something else that needs to be done. So the way we're geared is we don't like to be home. We like to be outside or like somewhere else.
Yeah.
Like digging deeper into that, me and my husband were able to realize like, oh, I understand why you need to be home and I understand why you need to be out. Mm-hmm. So it's very good on that. I haven't even noticed. I mean, I've noticed now that I'm thinking of it because I'm on the call, but just this week, like he was playing video games, which used to bother me. That was like a really big trigger. I don't know if you guys have talked about the triggers yet,
yeah.
but
we talked about that yesterday. Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah. I'd see him on the computer and I'd be like, oh, there he is again, not helping, not wanting to be with me and the kids, not wanting, not letting me feel wanted or, like included with what he's doing. But that's how he needs to unwind. That's his time. And I get that. But what's been happening lately is I don't even notice it anymore. Like he'll play. And then when he's done, he'll be like, thanks for letting me play. And I'll be like, oh, what? Mm-hmm. Oh, you're welcome. Like I didn't even notice anymore.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Notice like last night, for example, me and my kids were having like a little dance party. We had like a disco light on and like the speakers playing. And like he stopped his video game to just like come and play, like, hang out with us.
Yeah, that's so great.
Yeah, where I'm like, oh, it's so nice. Like, I don't have to be like, you're ignoring us for him to like get up,
Absolutely. Yeah. That's one of the things I think that's so great. Like inside the program, we've also and we touched on it this week a bit. The difference is just that men and women have, you know, and as women, we expect them to be like us. And then when we just learn that it's just genetically, we're just so different. And the way we
Yeah.
deal with stress is so different. And the way we deal, you know, with everything is so different. We're able to respect and honor how they are. And what happens in return when we create that space for them is they actually want to be with us in a way where they don't feel like they have to, you know, run farther in a way, like they don't have to go deal with their stress in other ways. So it's a, yeah, that's great. I love what you're saying.
Yeah, and I it was good. I love the program.
Oh, that's so great. That's
Yeah.
so awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So what would you say would be like unique that you really liked about also just the way that it was designed and the way that, you know, I know we do it with a group of women, so that's a little different, you know, to somebody who's like thinking, well, is it safe to share my personal stuff with other women, or how did you feel in that?
It was like I was nervous a little in the beginning because, you know, it's strangers. Like it's stuff that I didn't even tell like certain people in my that are close to me, but
Mm-hmm.
there's like a group of strangers that are listening. But it's nice because for me, I know people have more difficult struggles than mine, but even though I feel like they're little, you can see those similarities with other people, with other women. So you don't feel like, oh, this is not really a big deal because someone else is experiencing it too. Or, you know, like you don't feel like it's not worth it, worth the time. But I did like that, you know, the women were able to go together and talk, and that the men were able to go and talk separately,
Yeah.
but still do exercises that brought us together.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
that I like that.
Yeah, that's great. That's really great. Yeah, tell us a little bit about like what happened with your husband. I know that, so Karen's husband also did the program with my husband, with Rick. So how was that? A lot of the women in the program that we were going through, their husbands didn't participate, but what was the impact of him actually participating?
It was easier. I mean, I don't want to compare, but I did notice that with some of the other women, it was harder for them because their husbands weren't part of it.
Yeah.
So it was good that my husband was willing to do it too. Again, it's also hard if they don't do it. You should still do it even if they're not doing it.
Yeah.
But it's just easier because even though they have their own schedule, it's easier for them to understand the girl's point of view because Rick was helping them with their side. I feel like it would have been a little bit more difficult for me to explain certain things to him,
Mm-hmm.
context that you were explaining it, or in the context that Rick would use to explain it.
Yeah.
Because even right now when I'm trying to talk, I don't like, it's just different when you hear it from like you or from Rick.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, like
Very
I
different. Yeah.
never properly, but
Yeah.
it helps that he can have his guys too.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it impacted him a lot. There was more like, because one of the other struggles I had was that sometimes I would ask him to do things in the beginning of the day, hoping that by the end of the day he would get it done, but sometimes it wouldn't get done. And that would also be a trigger, like, I already asked you, like, why do I have to ask you again?
Mm-hmm.
But I've noticed that when I ask him, he just does it now, or I don't even have to ask him. There's also a lot more appreciation.
Mm-hmm.
Like if he does something, the simplest thing, like I didn't always say thank you,
Mm-hmm.
but I do say thank you more now, and I can see it. Like as soon as I say thank you, or if I go and give him a hug, like
Mm-hmm.
he's from like this to like, oh,
Ah,
like,
that's great.
like just like that, you know.
Yeah.
And I see him too. Like I might be like sitting down reading a book, and my kids are playing around me, and he'll come and be like, hey, why don't you go to the other room and read for like an hour?
Oh, that's awesome.
Like we do a lot of that now. Or like, oh, are you gonna go play tonight? Like you can go play. Like
Yeah.
there's more. It's just weird because it doesn't seem like those problems are a big deal. anymore. Yeah.
I know sometimes when we go through transformation, we don't even remember how we were before. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I know sometimes like when I look at my relationship with Rick, I mean, we've been doing this work, this transformation work for 15 plus years probably now. And when I look at our marriage, I'm like, this is just normal for us. And it's normal, you know, for us to like resolve our conflicts in the way that we do within like 15 minutes, it's resolved. And then when I really get present to and when I really look at it, I'm like, wow, the transformation has been phenomenal. Like when I look back. So I acknowledge you for really like taking on and being so coachable.
Yeah.
And Francis too, like you guys, like I'm sitting here and I'm just like, I have, you know, so much excitement for your kids, for your family, that you guys get to really now be that example for them. It's so beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like it's not ordinary, you know, an ordinary relationship. We're just like, we want to blame, we want to get
Yeah.
defensive. And that is, you know, how a lot of us are taught to be, you know, but there is another way. And that's like, that's what I'm seeing in you guys. And that's what I'm committed that women really get. Like there is another way. You can actually feel that fulfillment and you don't have to stay in that place, you know, even though by default we want to a lot of times, you know, but it's practice. And that's the thing, like if you keep practicing it and really like having somebody hold you accountable for that, um, it becomes like the new norm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the thing, like you're so focused on like he did this wrong, or when he looks at me like, oh, she messed up on this. But going through the program, it helped me see my faults too, like why I'm the way I am.
Yeah.
So it's like him. It's like, oh, this is why I thought that way. This is how I feel. This is what gears me the way I'm geared.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so awesome. So would you, I mean, what would you say to a woman that's like on the fence or considering, you know, enrolling? What would you say to, like, if it was a friend of
I,
yours? Yeah.
even if you're not having like problems, I think it's still good to go into so that you can learn ways to grow the relationship. You don't
Mm-hmm.
have to fix the relationship, but just there's a lot of content in there that can help you like realize things that you didn't realize, that can help you for later stuff. And then you'll like that shift.
That's so great. Yeah, for sure. There is. And like, then you get to teach that to your children about how a relationship can be. So, yeah.
That's like you have your kids and like you don't want them to have the wrong ideas about, you know, what a relationship can mean.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Karen. I am
I
so
hope that helps. I know I
I,
tend to.
you know, I mean, I'm like super inspired. Like, oh my God, I can't wait till our next program.
Yeah.
Let me see if there's any questions that I don't see any of the comments, but if there are, we'll make sure to answer them with Rick. He's going to come on with me right now.
Okay.
But yeah, thank you so much for being here. I'm so
Welcome.
grateful for your time. This is great. It was so good to see you also.
To
So
see you.
thank you. Yeah, say hi to your husband and have a beautiful Saturday.
You
Enjoy your day. Thank
too.
you. Okay, bye.
Bye.
Okay. You can come on now. Now, thank you guys for watching that. And if any of you have any questions, I'm bringing my hubby Rick on. This is Rick, everyone.
Hi, everybody.
So if you guys have any questions, if you're on the fence about, you know, joining, if you have anything that is there for you, that's that, you know, just reach out to me. If there's anything that's there for you, reach out to me. You can ask any questions about it. I would love for you to join. As a reminder, I'm giving a discount till Monday midnight. We're giving a discount till Monday. And after Monday midnight, the price goes up to $12.50. Right now, you can enroll in the program, in the 3-month program, for $8.95, and just like literally transform your marriage. So yeah.
So what are we talking about today?
So I brought Rick on and he did not want to come on. He was like, "Do I have to do this?" So I was like, "Yeah, I really want." The women that have been participating in this challenge, I really wanted them, just number one, to meet you, because I think as women, we always want to kind of, know about the family. We want to see the behind the scenes. So this is my husband. He's the one who has been just as responsible for writing and developing, this challenge and the Transform Your Marriage program. We've designed all of it together. So, I thought it was really important to bring him on also. And today we're going to talk about the communication tools that have been really powerful for us in our relationship that we use like daily, and we teach them also to the participants of the Transform Your Marriage program. So I wanted to share them with you guys. So yeah, you want to kind of say anything?
Yeah, well, first I want to say how awesome you are. I think she's awesome. Like, it really takes something, to get on camera and to like sing what I call sing your song, like do what your soul is pulling you forward to do with your life. And it takes courage to put yourself out there. And she does that, and she does it fearlessly, and you do it like you're just amazing at it. And I love you for it, and I appreciate you for it. And it's super cool because I know it takes something. Yeah. Like even right now, I get on the camera and I'm like, okay, so how's my light? Like, so what I did, I'll tell you a little bit about myself, and then we'll get into the conversation. For most of my career, for 20 plus years, I was a producer and director and creative director and director of content development for TV. I did NBC and Telemundo for like 20 years. So anyway, so like when I get on camera, I was never like the guy that got on camera. I was always the guy behind the camera. So I know what it's like to be nervous, or to like, do I look good, or, what's not working here? Like the sun is going to keep going and pretty soon my head's going to glow, or anyway, so it takes something, so that's what I did for most of my career. And like Yana said, I've been doing transformational work since 2005, I think, is when we started, right? And we've done like neurolinguistic programming classes, and then we did some stuff with Alison Armstrong. And so anyway, all of the stuff that we share, or for the most part, it's rooted in those concepts. And that's kind of it. And so, Yana asked if I'd jump on the call and on the video, right? And support her in having this conversation with you guys, because this is stuff that we incorporate in our lives. So she thought it would be good if I came on and just shared a little bit about that, because it literally, like, some of this stuff like literally just happened yesterday.
Absolutely.
So we can use examples from it. So yeah. Do you want to just get into it? I'll take the first one and go from there.
Sure.
Yeah. So so these are tools that we use to navigate our communication, right? Or like our like sort of conflict resolution. And I think she went over that. These tools sort of like, they only work inside of our overall strategy or plan, right? Like by themselves, they're great and they're useful, but it's really about like the commitment to have your relationship go a specific way, or have your communication go a specific way. And then these are good, right? Like these can be used inside of that. So one of them, the first one we'll talk about, is that you're both right. So like when we argue, we're always trying to establish who's right and who's wrong, right? Because that's the position inherently, right? And arguing about who's right and who's wrong is useless, because it really doesn't matter who's right or who's wrong on any given day, right? What matters is that you get to resolution, right? And so when you lose sight of that, and when it becomes more important to be right, then what you get from being right isn't the solution to what's not working for you in your life. You just get to be right, right? And I think she reviewed this the other day. Like, we're always going to take turns at being the jerk or the a-hole in the room, right? So sometimes, if you if you asked 7 billion people on the planet who's right, sometimes it's her and sometimes it's me, right? But in the end, like I said, it doesn't matter. What matters is that you get to a solution, that you resolve whatever's in the way that's not working. Because in the end, that's really what we want out of it, right? Like we just want to be able to live our lives and be in our relationship and have everything flow and have everything be inside of a harmonious sort of like dynamic. So anyway, so when we have issues, and it just happened yesterday, right? So when we have issues, something comes up, the idea with this is trying on that you're both right. And so yesterday, I was working on supporting her with some of the stuff that she was producing for the event. And I'm laying there and we're having a conversation sort of. And then like she looks at me and she's like, you're being a jerk. Right. And then and so like my automatic sort of default response, right? My context for it is like to be defensive, right? Like I'm not being a jerk, you're being like this. And so when I thought about it, even though there was a bit of protest there, I'm not gonna lie, I got present to that I can take on that she's right, that I'm being a jerk. And so if I take on that I'm being a jerk, what's the impact on her? Like, what is it like for her to be with somebody who's being a jerk, right? And so for her, it's frustrating and, she feels small or, whatever it is, right? Whatever the particulars are about it. But the point is that I was willing to take on in that moment that I was being a jerk instead of being right that I wasn't and right that she was another way, right? Mm-hmm. Because, in the end, it's really not about validating the other person, right? Or invalidating the other person. It's really getting to what is the solution? Like, where do we want to go with this, right? And so, even though it's difficult when you argue.
Mm-hmm. And really quickly, like he told me that he didn't say that. No, what you said was, I feel like when I'm doing something for you, you're always complaining. Mm-hmm. And my default defensive, robot kind of autopilot machine wanted to be like, no, I don't. Like, I'm not complaining. I just want to get it right. And then like, once I got that, I was like, okay, just what if he is right? What if I am complaining, every time he's doing something for me? Like he doesn't feel appreciated. That's the impact. And I was able to really own it and just, share with him, that is what I do. I'm always complaining and you're being a jerk, like, and just owning that. And then we had an opportunity, to move forward and to get into our big why.
So, yeah. And so that's step one. Step one is just getting that you've got to be willing to try on that he or she is right. Right. Mm-hmm. And then step two, it's your job to really get what he's saying or what she's saying and how he or she feels about that particular point of view, mm-hmm. right? And then, it gets reciprocated or not, right? The point is that you end up taking that on. So for me, when I got that she was saying I was a jerk, I sort of, there's a process called recreation, which you learn in another program, where I recreated her and I really got what the impact was on her of my being a jerk, right? So it's my job to get into her world, mm-hmm. or your job to get into his world and recreate his experience of whatever it is that he's saying is going on, of his complaint, right? And then the last step in this is that you got to be responsible for the other person's view. So get that you are the source for their view. Mm-hmm. And try on that you have the power to do something about it. So it doesn't mean that again, I'm not validating anything about her complaint. I'm just taking on that I can be responsible for it and that I have the power to do something about it. Because when I do that, or when you do that, it completely sidesteps the power struggle and it deflates it by allowing each of you the opportunity to be heard and to be understood and to be empowered. And in the end, when she walks away from that conflict and she's recreated and she gets that there's a place to go, like it's not just, oh, okay, he gets it, now what, right? But then I actually take responsibility for it and I'll let her know that, hey, you can count on me, I'm going to be this way, I'm going to do that, and if I don't, you can call me on it, whatever it is, then we can just, we have a place to move forward.
And it's it's so empowering when you can just own it and not take it personal, but just get like, okay, for them, in their view, they're also right. And that's it.
Yeah.
and it means nothing about me.
For sure.
So yeah. So another one that we use, all the time, or I should say that, hold on, sorry guys. Okay. So another one that I wouldn't say it's not like we use it all the time, but it's just part of, of how we manage, I should say, our marriage. And this one we call the 168 rule. So lots of women, they tell me that there's this like unequal division of labor that they have in the house. And in addition to working, women usually feel like they're doing most of the work at home. Can you guys relate with that? I mean, do you feel like you're the one that's mostly doing everything? Even if you're working, you feel like you're taking care of the kids and doing everything in the house, while he's, working 40 hours with little else on his plate. Well, that's what, for the man, that's what his experience is often like. So maybe you don't work, but you're still the one that's working most of the day on taking care of the cooking, the house, the kids. If you're homeschooling now, you're doing homeschooling, so you're a teacher also. So the 168 rule is just simply a conversation about the total amount of hours in the week and the way that they're used up to achieve your common goals. That's all it is. So if you're both sleeping 8 hours a night, that leaves you with 112 hours a week for other things. If he's putting in 40 to 50 hours and you're putting in 60 to 70 hours or vice versa, there's an equal division of labor. Unequal. Yeah. So it's not right or wrong. It's just is. Like, it's just how many hours there are. So I'm just, I'm just addressing, like, what is it? What are the division of hours in your household? And when you keep it simple and you just are able to talk about what's actually happening, there isn't anything to be right about, or there isn't anything to argue about. It's just what is, and that's it. There's no judgments, there's no story about it. It's just what is happening. And that's where, you just go to managing it. And it can create actually a mutual understanding that you can both agree on and begin a conversation that's going to support each other in being responsible for meeting the needs of your family. That's all that is. This can also make room for actually spending time together. I hear from so many women that they don't have enough time together with their husbands. Well, if you just look at your day and if you just look at the hours in the week, even if you put in a 15-minute coffee date at home without any distractions, you are able to actually be responsible and create some time, and it can make such a big difference. So all it is like literally looking at, it's almost like you're a boss, at a job, and you're managing your calendar, and you're just dealing with what's so, right? How many hours your employee is working, or how many hours you're putting it into certain, tasks that are important to you. So that's another one that we use, and we just look at our day and, we just move things around that work. Like, we identify, like, Rick yesterday was sharing with me that for him, he needs to take care of himself in the mornings. And for me, I also need to take care of myself in the morning, like exercising. So he shared with me, it's like, look, in the mornings, I need to take time to exercise, to just like take care of my body, to go out to the beach and meditate and so on. And I was like, okay, so do I. So how can we just manage the time? How can we set it in the calendar, right? So like, let's wake up at a certain time. You're going to go and, do your exercises between 7 and 8. And I'm going to take care of the kids, make sure they're getting ready. And then we switch. And so you work like partners. You work as a team rather than making each other wrong and blaming each other. And it's just, you work with what's so. So that's the 168.
Yeah, that's really good. And, to give credit to David Goggins, that's where that came from. If you guys, he's got a great book out called Can't Hurt Me. And it's an incredible story. Anyway, he uses that rule. And so so that's one that we incorporate, and it works really well actually, because it's sort of, I mean, it's kind of sounds elementary to just kind of like break it down to math, but it just kind of works out that way.
Yeah.
And it's cool because there's no kind of like, well, I do and you do or whatever.
Yeah.
We just get it worked out.
And here's the thing, you have to, set it up with your husband so you guys are on the same page about it. So I would, share about it with him. So yeah.
So are you guys, one of the ones that's on here is setting traps, but I think you guys talked about that.
Yeah,
already,
we
right?
talked about setting traps, and I'm actually really curious to see and to, hear from you guys, like what are the traps that you saw between yesterday, because you had that in your assignment, and today. What are some traps that you guys saw that you can set up for yourself and for those stress monsters? So yeah, post it in the comments. I'm really curious. And hi, Michelle. So good to see you.
Oh, hey.
Michelle is
That's
on.
awesome. Hey, Michelle. So I will say, one thing about setting traps for guys. So we, like when we're done with work and we come home, or if you're working from home, there's a period after we're done with the work where we really need to unwind. Alison Armstrong talks about this, and I thought she did a great job of creating an analogy of, the caveman and the hunter, when he goes out and he hunts, and he's hunting and risking his life, and then he comes back to the cave and he doesn't want to do anything to like support the cave in that moment or beautify it or do anything that, take care of what he needs is to sort of like, transition from hunt mode to, I'm available for whatever else mode. So for me, I noticed that like as a total, like I needed to set a trap for that. Like I knew that for me coming home, or once I was done with work, I needed some time to just chill. And then after I did that, then I can get into whatever it was that we needed to do, or, support with the kids or with dinner or with whatever. It didn't really matter. Much more available after that. And it made a big difference when that started happening. And actually, Yana was the one that brought that up. So that was really cool. You want me to do this one?
Yeah.
Yeah. So another one is writing the plan. And, when it comes to, and I think she talked about this yesterday, but when it comes to creating a plan for navigating breakdowns in your marriage, I'm going to say that you're going to land in one of two categories, right? You either don't have a plan, and maybe you don't land in one of these categories. I'm just suggesting, okay? So either you don't have a plan, or two, you don't have a plan that works. So either way, you've got to create one that does work. But first, you've got to be willing to admit that whatever it is that you're doing to, establish world peace, or at least peace in the bedroom, it hasn't been working, right? Or it's not been working the way that you genuinely want it to, right? So you've got to be willing to admit where and how you're responsible for those breakdowns. So once you're able to be honest about that, see, typically what happens is like we get into this place of like, making him or her wrong for not delivering on whatever that plan is, or however it's supposed to go, right? Like he stonewalls, or he doesn't want to listen, or, and she's always talking and she doesn't give me a break, or whatever it is, right? So those are your like sort of standard complaints. And there's a lot of other ones, but when you can be honest about those breakdowns, and you can just like come to the table ready to sort of like clean and share it with him, right? Like let him know that, hey, you know what? Like I got that, I'm responsible for X. Doesn't let him off the hook, right? And in fact, what you get into, what you realize is there is no hook for him to be on, or for her to be on in the first place. What it does is it creates a clearing to be able to step into creating that plan again. So like if, let's say, I don't know, we said we're going to talk on Friday nights or whatever. And then we realized that like, well, Friday night doesn't work because that's the day that X, Y, and Z happens. And so we need to move it. But instead of making each other wrong for not being available to do whatever on Friday, we correct it, we take responsibility for it, and then we just move forward to the next plan. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. I always think sometimes like marriage is like running a business almost, or like a company. I mean, if you really don't take the things that aren't working personal and just really look at it from how do I make it work, because what you really want to do is make it work, then there's an opportunity for you just to manage whatever is not working and to find other ways to really to make it work, right? And to make it something that you really enjoy rather than survive. So yeah, the plan I think is just, you know, one of those ways.
So sorry, just to reiterate. So it's a constant like looking at what is it that's working about it or not working about it, and reinventing and reinventing and reinventing, or being responsible for it.
Yeah.
Because what happens with any plan, right? Like it doesn't matter if it's a diet plan or a workout plan or any kind of plan. There's always going to be a breakdown in whether or not you're taking action inside of that plan. Like it's never not going to be that. There's always going to be a time where he's not available or you're not available or something happens. So, and instead of just, you know, getting on your box and being right about it, it's really about just being responsible for how to make it work. That's it. And so you're always going back to the drawing board, so to speak.
Yeah, for sure. So, okay, this one, this last, I think it's the last one, but tool I think is really great for women, especially. And this one is the honesty hour. And we learned this back when we were, I think, dating, right? From our therapist.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And, or when we just got married. And it's such a powerful tool. You know, one of the things that I think women we deal with is feeling safe, like feeling safe to be able to talk, to be able to really open up and share with our husbands without, you know, feeling like we're going to be attacked or whatever, right? So honesty hour is a time that you just set up for the two of you to actually talk. And you have to set it up beforehand, and you have to, you know, set him up. And the fundamental rule in honesty hour is that neither person can actually judge the other one for what is being said. So that's the first rule, very important one. And you have to agree, you know, you have to agree to this before you actually have that honesty hour.
And it's easier said than done.
Yeah.
But it's possible.
Yeah. So that's the first rule. And then the second rule is that when it's your turn to listen, that all you do is listen to what he is saying, and then he makes the agreement to listen to you and whatever you're saying. So this is also hard, but very, you know, powerful when you do that. And there is a catch. Okay, you've got to actually listen actively. You actually have to be present and just get into their world. And not only do you have to get what the other person is saying, you've also got to get how they feel about it. Really, like, it takes something to get all your thoughts, your judgments out of the way and just get into their world and really be over there and really listen. So you can't be thinking about what you want to say when your spouse is talking. Okay, you just got to listen, period. And then when it's your turn to talk, you start off by recreating what he just said. Or, you know, if he's doing it, he recreates what you said. Meaning that you just repeat what you understood about what he said and how he actually felt. So it's really powerful to just even repeat it. Like, you can repeat it verbatim, but, you know, with your put on it, but really, like, did I get that? And ask them. And then after, you can say what you think and feel from your point of view. And during this honesty hour, I actually get to tell my husband everything that I think and feel, and his job is just to get what I'm communicating. And then when I'm done with everything, I have to say that it's, you know, his turn. So it's a really great way to preempt those issues that tend to get swept under the rug, is to really create that intentional time. And you can, like, put it into your calendars that you're going to have that honesty hour. Okay, so then that way, you know, you have that agreement, nobody's going to get defensive, and you can just say whatever there is to say. But you have to make that agreement before you speak, okay? But I promise you, this is like magic to just be able to share and get everything out. So
one of the things I got when we started doing that was that, because for me, I don't feel like when I want to say something, I don't curb what I think or what I feel. Like I'm somebody who could just come out and say whatever there is for me to say. For Yana, I realized that, like, and you said it, so it's not something that, like, came to me, you know, in a moment of lucidity. Like, she told me, you know, that, hey, I don't feel safe talking to you about some stuff sometimes. And so when we started to incorporate honesty hour, it made a massive difference for you. I mean, it did for me too, because then we got to, like, air stuff out and get through things in a different way. But for sure, it made a huge difference.
Yeah.
So that
Well,
was
one
like,
of the biggest complaints as women that we have is that we feel like we're not heard and seen. And I hear that all the time from women, that they're like, I just don't feel like he hears me or he sees me. So what the honesty hour does is like, you're actually being responsible for being heard and seen. And you get to actually kind of create the rules for how you're going to be heard and seen, rather than, you know, just complaining about it and being a victim about it. So it's a beautiful tool that like I highly suggest that you guys try. And, you know, if you're going to have that conversation with your husband about it, really set it up from your big why of like what you truly want, and share that with him. You know, if he, obviously, if he hasn't been listening to everything, he might not understand what the heck you're talking about. So you have to be responsible for setting up the context. Okay. And the context is your big why. Okay.
Is it my turn or is it your turn? It's my turn.
Yeah. I mean,
Or
and
whatever.
yeah, we're just, you know, having a conversation.
So there's another one. So I did martial arts for like 15 years, and one of the really great things about martial arts is that it was a positive way for me to release my stress, right? And so there is a tactic, there's a tool, a positive stress release sort of opportunity, right? So, you know, there's like when you want to share, or when I want to communicate something with her that I have an issue about or that I have a complaint about. I think you guys went over default context of complaint and stress and all that, right? So when there's that going on and I want to share that, it's shared typically through that lens, right, of complaint. And so the way it's received, right, is like I'm being attacked or she's being attacked for whatever it is that's being said, right? And so then the natural position would be to defend yourself if you're being attacked, right? So then if that topic ever comes up again, right, I'm already going to be getting in the defensive, or she's already going to be getting into the defensive, because the context is always the same. The context is always complaint. The context is always I'm wrong. The context is always I'm going to be attacked, right? So I'm going to get defensive. And if when we talk, it's the same thing over and over and over again, guys will, you know, and I've heard this term used, stonewall you, right? Like we just will not talk about it because there's no point in having the conversation if we're just going to go through a rinse and repeat where it's the same thing over and over again, right? So while you may want to share with him about what you're going through and what's stressing you out, he might not be available to get you, right? And that said, like you or I'm still the only person responsible for creating a structure that supports me or you in being able to process what you're going through, right? So you've got to really be clear about what that can look like for you. Like what is a positive, you know, release of stress for you, right? And how do you do that? So you have to understand your specific needs as it relates to easing your stress, right? So there's not like a one size fits all sort of way to do this, right? Like you really need to figure out what works for you, right? So, you know, typically women are seek talk therapy and they nurture on that. But if that's not you, that's okay, right? If you're not the type to nurture and reach out to others or seek talk therapy, it's all good. What is it that does work for you? Because what is important is that you recognize what you need to do for yourself when you have the experience of stress, or if it's prolonged stress, right? Like what we're going through with the pandemic, or what a lot of people are, I don't want to generalize in that way, then it becomes distress, right? Because it's sustained amount of stress, right? So like, you know, if you want to talk and you really want to get it out and you really want to connect, you can reach out to other women, friends, family that are available to have a discussion with you, and, you know, and set it up so that it's on a regular basis. Don't just set it up so that like, it's like, oh, this one time where I've got to do it. Have it be something that's in your calendar. Like I still have a conversation with my coach every week. For a while, it was 2 times a week. For a long time, we had a group of friends of 6 friends where we would like literally take turns having a conversation with somebody every single day, you know, and it was a weekly kind of thing where we rotated, right? And that structure was created to enable, you know, me or her or anybody to really, you know, have that release, right? Like
I have
you guys,
a group of women that I talk to. Yeah, I have a group of women, that 4 of us, that I know are super positive, that I know I can count on whenever I'm in breakdown, that I know that will like listen to me as my greatest self that literally we text each other every day. We talk to each other. We have a Zoom call every Tuesday at 6:30 in the morning. And all we do is we just share. We share our wins, we share our lows, our, everything. And it's honestly, it's like medicine, literally just medicine for my soul. For all of us, we cry, we laugh. I know that, even this week, I was like, you guys hold a space for me to make a difference for these women. And it's so powerful to set that up, so
For sure.
yeah.
And then, you can like join support groups for married women, like the
Mhm.
Transform Your Marriage Facebook group. That's a shameless plug, but like
Yeah.
you can do stuff like that too,
Or
right?
if you want to go deeper, the Transform Your Marriage program is an amazing opportunity
For sure.
that.
For sure. For sure.
Because then we, go one-on-one and we really like get into the whatever you're dealing with.
So, you can also like make sure you set up a day and a time to dialogue with your husband. Like, I know it seems super simple, but believe me, when you put it in your calendar and you honor that time and you make it, so you got to make the agreement with him, and don't do it at a time when you're complaining or anything, right? Like, make sure that you're creating a powerful context, like your big why, and then you can have a conversation with him about, hey, I just want to create a time when you and I can talk, and like where you're good with it, it's going to work for you and it works for me, and we can just do that to dialogue, and then you can create an honesty hour or whatever you want, right?
Yeah.
And then that way you create an agreement that works in advance, right? And you're not trying to, back up into something, and make sure, did you want to say something?
I just wanted to, as you're speaking, I'm like, I want to make sure that if you guys have any questions, post them in the comments so we can actually answer them about anything. Because I know this is a lot of content, and we're sharing so many different new ideas. Yeah, so I want to just kind of check in with all of you, and I don't want to overwhelm you with so much information. So just,
we're gonna wrap it up.
No, but I really want to serve you, and I know you do too, and answer if you have any questions.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
Make sure you post those now so we can answer them before we log off.
So, when you set this up with him, make sure you set the rules beforehand so he knows what you're asking of him. And that's really important. When a guy knows what to expect inside of whatever the conversation is going to be or the event's going to be, it's super important, right? So he knows what he's getting into, right? And you can make sure he knows, hey, listen, this isn't about making you wrong or judging you or anything. Like, I really just want to have a conversation so that I can like support you and what you're up to, and I can get support if I need it or whatever it is, right? So if you don't like, so what's a good example? So if you don't need him, for example, to give you feedback or to solve anything, and as men, we're like instinctively inclined to trying to solve or fix or something, right? If you just want him to listen, ask him. Tell me, listen, right now, I don't want you to fix anything or solve anything. Would you please just listen to me like a friend? Like, just get what I'm saying. Like, I had a conversation with a client today. We were on a coaching call and he was ranting. And I said, dude, do you just want me to get you right now and get what you're saying and not like coach you? Or do you want some coaching through this? Right. But it makes a difference. Right. So, or if you do want his feedback or his advice, you make sure he knows that beforehand too. Say, listen, I really want to understand, what you think about this. What's important is that he understands his role in the conversation before you enter into the conversation.
Yeah.
Right. So, like, remember, men, like, we typically want to seek escape when confronted by stress, right? We're going to compartmentalize and repress our feelings in order to get away from the issue so that we can take care of our stress and then come back when we're ready to go hunt or achieve whatever the goal is, right? So make sure he knows that it's okay for him to have the time to do whatever he needs to do with his own stress. Like we talked about, I think, whether it's playing a video game or no, Karen was talking about that.
Yeah.
Or golf or working out or just doing nothing at all, let him know that it's really okay. It really is going to make a difference. And then like we talked about, setting up a schedule too, right? So that he can manage whatever his needs are. And then sometimes if he doesn't want to talk at all, it's cool, right? Let him be. I promise he will, right? If you restructure the context and you set it up in a way where he understands the rules, he will end up discussing how he feels. It might not be the first time or the second time, but he will for sure, right? And make sure that that he knows that you're available for him whenever he wants to, just do that judgment free.
Yeah, for sure. And this is like Rick just mentioned, it might not happen on the first time. It takes practice. And if you guys have been in this consistent, mode of conflict and a context that's been from, a complaint for a long time, these tools that we've been talking about, it really takes practice to keep putting it in and putting it in and putting it in. And then slowly you might see, you know, or not you might, you're gonna start seeing the shifts happening with your husband.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of tools that you can incorporate to support your plan and ensure that you're staying ahead of your stress curve. There's a ton more that we can talk about it, but we won't. The important thing here is just to commit to a plan with your husband or to yourself. You know, if your husband, a lot of you say that your husband is not really open to any kind of conversations or even coaching or whatever, but it is super, you know, amazing when you commit to something for yourself, for your family, for your marriage. And if he's open to it, that's awesome. And if he's not, do it for you and for your family. So,
you know, I'll say one thing real quick before we
Yeah.
wrap. You know, one of the things to get right is like how human we are, and the condition of being human is the same for everybody. And so if he's used to the context of complaint and that conversation, right, that's predicated by it, like I said, he's just not going to want to talk. But I'm telling you that if you continue to put in that work and you continue to reframe your context and you continue to approach him from your big why and have those kinds of conversations and leave him the space to deal with his own stress in a way where it works for him in a positive capacity, there is going to be an opening. You will create an opening. You will begin to see a shift over there. And you'll begin to see opportunities that weren't there before. Right. And I promise that's the way it works. It works like that for everybody. If he all of a sudden started making you wrong for something and he just allowed you the space to be yourself and supported you, and you're dealing with whatever you're dealing with, you would eventually look at him through a different lens. And it's what will happen. So put in the work, create the schedule, you know, do what you need to do for yourself, and he will come around for sure.
Absolutely. And if you guys want that accountability, if you want to like have something that is, you know, a roadmap and somebody to actually hold your hand to creating that plan, to making sure that you are following through on the plan, to making sure that you're setting this up in your marriage and actually making those shifts, then if you're like me, I mean, I need somebody to hold my hand. I invite you to join me, and I invite you to, you know, really take your marriage on, and I will freaking hold your hand and hold you accountable and make sure that you guys are fulfilling on what you truly want and what you desire for your family, for your kids, for your life. So, you know, Transform Your Marriage program, we're going to be open for enrollment until Monday night. The price is $8.95. If you guys choose to join after, the price goes up to $12.50. If you have any questions at all, let me know. I'm going to go live also tomorrow and on Monday sharing some other amazing things with you. So make sure you join me. And yeah, and honestly, it's such a blessing and such an opportunity to be with all of you. Thank you so much for listening, for taking on your family. I'm so grateful. We are. I know, you know, we're so grateful that you guys have been here. And I'm going to check to see if anybody has any other questions. I don't see any questions.
God bless you all. Thank you for being here.
Yes, thank you.
And you know, if your husbands are curious or interested or anything, you know, I'm open to have a conversation with them about what's possible for them. You know, I know what a difference it makes. Not just for me and for Yana, but when you've got a family and you've got kids, what a difference it makes for the kids. And it just, the kind of environment that gets created when you're aligned in what you're up to with your life, with your marriage, with your health, with your career, with your finances. Like when you get in alignment with that and you create a partnership for achieving those things, it's just like, dude, like it's different. Sorry, it's different. Like the kind of experience you have of being alive really does shift.
Absolutely.
Right. And so it's something that we're both committed to in supporting people to really just be themselves, right? As powerfully as you can be, right? I was asked a question once, how good are you willing to have your life be? And it took me a long time to get my head around that. Right. And so anyway, we're here for that, and I'm here for that. So God bless you guys, and thank you for being here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm available if you guys have any other further questions about anything we talked about the program. I'm here to support you. Okay. I will see you soon. Thank you so much for watching.